Can you read that? Nikon Red. This is the first collaboration between Nikon and Red since Nikon bought Red. And this is a monster. This is a full frame, shoots 6K Red RAW with autofocus. First Red camera with autofocus. 32-bit float built into this camera. And this monster LCD screen, 4 inches. This is like the biggest LCD screen I've ever seen on a camera like this. And all this for $2,200. Like, this is gonna be the biggest camera of the year, for sure. Honestly, this is the first camera that I'm actually thinking about switching from the FX3. I did not see this coming. I did not have high hopes for the Nikon Red collaboration. I just thought it was going to be a little bit of a disaster. But somehow, Nikon has gone from one of the worst in video to the best. There's only one big thing that's holding me back from switching to this immediately, and we'll get to that later. I had 1 week with it. I shot a ton, a lot of doc style stuff in different situations, and this is not sponsored. These are my honest, true thoughts. Welcome to the review of the Nikon ZR. I gotta say, it's fun to review a camera where a company is actually trying to push the limits. I mean, it makes sense. They don't have a cinema line to protect right now. The ZR shoots beautiful video. Dare I say it, it might be the best quality video from a prosumer camera that I've ever seen. Not something I thought I would be saying about a Nikon. The ZR has a full frame 24 megapixel sensor, and it shoots 6K Red RAW, not in 16-bit like we're used to on Red cameras, but in 12-bit, which is, I'll take it, it's incredible. All the way up to 60 frames per second, plus we get ProRes and H.265 and H.264. And we get a whopping 15 plus stops of dynamic range in Red RAW. Now it does drop if you go to the H.265 or H.264 codecs, but even those are really, really nice. And yes, the dynamic range numbers by camera companies are kind of made up. There isn't like an industry standard that everybody adheres to strictly, but just looking at the footage, anecdotally, you can right away tell that there is in fact a ton of dynamic range. It was very hard to clip the highlights. The image has tons of detail. The colors in Red RAW are really nice. And again, that dynamic range is incredible. I'm genuinely shocked at how good the footage looks in Red RAW. And it almost feels like there's two different cameras inside of this one body. There's the Red camera and then there's the Nikon camera. With most cameras, when they have a RAW mode, you shoot in the RAW and you're like, well, it doesn't look that different. This is not the case for the ZR. I would say there's a drastic difference between the Red RAW and then the Nikon just normal H.265, H.264 codecs. And I'm not saying that the Nikon is bad, it's just the RAW is a lot better, which I guess it's actually kind of nice because a lot of times when a camera has RAW, you don't end up shooting in the RAW because it's just so much data, it's so hard to deal with, and then you're like, I'm not even really seeing a difference. This is not the case here. You're definitely getting more dynamic range, and I think the colors are also better in the Red RAW. All right, here's some super high contrast, very bright sun examples, just to see kind of what the footage looks like. This is very harsh right now, so yeah, this is Red RAW right here, and then we'll try it in the normal codec. All right, now we are on the normal H.265 codec 10-bit. No RAW now. Super harsh. But again, the Nikon normal codecs, the log, still nice. I would say perhaps better than like an FX3 or Canon whatever camera. But of course, with Red RAW means bigger file sizes. Essentially, it's gonna be about double the file sizes. So for 6K 24 frames per second Red RAW, it's about 190 megabits per second. For 6K 30, it's 237 megabits. And for 6K 60p, it's 472 megabits per second. Now it does also have NRAW, which is like Nikon's RAW, but I think I would just stick to Red's RAW. The one, I guess, upside of the Nikon RAW is that you can have auto white balance, whereas Red RAW, you just choose the white balance afterwards in post, so it doesn't have auto white balance. Now we do get 120 frames per second slow motion in the ZR, but it is cropped slightly in 4K, so it's not quite the same as having an uncropped, 120 frames per second on the FX3, but still usable, totally fine. Just, I always hate the little crops. We have a dual base ISO 800 and 6400, so it's not gonna be an absolute low light beast like the A7S III or FX3, but still really nice in low light. Like 6400 is a pretty great dual base ISO, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not bummed about that. I think that's pretty great. 12,800 still better, but 6400 great. And this is huge. We get autofocus for the first time in a Red camera. And this is a really big deal. I've actually never ever recommended a Red or a Blackmagic camera to somebody when they're like, hey, what camera should I buy? And that is because they're not good enough, in my opinion, to compete with the best of the best, like the Aries, but they also don't really fit the smaller to mid-range budget projects because they don't have autofocus, and autofocus is vital, in my opinion, for those small to mid-range projects. They can just be such a lifesaver, especially if you're a one-man band. You need autofocus. It is so important, and that's why the Nikon ZR actually ends up being, like, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best Red camera ever made. Okay, yeah, you could argue that some of like the high-end Red cameras are better still, but I think for the majority of people, this is the best Red camera ever made. And it feels like this is what the Komodo should have been. I feel like a lot of people who bought the Komodo are gonna be a little bit mad. Shots fired! Good time to check the autofocus too. Let's test it. So if we walk forwards, autofocus test here. A lot of people will ask, is it as good as the Canon or Sony? To me, it seemed just as good as any of the other companies, which was a nice surprise, because if the autofocus was like okay, then it doesn't really feel like true autofocus. This autofocus, it's great. And I love that Nikon didn't just go with their traditional camera bodies and decided to go with something totally different that fits better for video users.
Spencer, my new editor, he shoots a lot too. He hasn't seen the new Nikon Red camera yet, so I'm gonna surprise him. We're gonna get his first impressions, see what he thinks.
There it is.
It's so small.
It's tiny, eh?
Whoa. It's heavy.
Oh my god.
It's kind of like...
It's a big screen on the back.
Whoa, the screen is huge.
And the first thing you will notice is this massive 4-inch LCD screen on the back. It basically takes up like the whole back, and it is incredible. DCI P3, just a bit smaller than the 5-inch monitors that people are putting on their FX3s or Canon cameras or whatever it is, and it's really nice. High quality, I had no troubles focusing from it, and basically doing everything I need from this LCD screen. To me, this feels more like it's made for like prosumers, where like you're not working on big sets necessarily, but like that's everything you would need to like shoot a wedding or shoot a little like internal video or a commercial or music video or whatever.
Or if you already have a Red, like this is like a B camera for all that stuff as well.
Plus, this is the first Red with autofocus. And which is interesting. Full frame autofocus and 32-bit flow.
That's huge.
That's like, that combination is great. Don't spin it the wrong way.
Everybody, nobody's used to the Nikons.
It's a big sensor.
Yeah.
The body, it's kind of like a slightly taller and wider version of an FX3, but then also slightly skinnier. It doesn't really have like a grip at all, which I actually didn't mind at all. It's really lightweight at 630 grams with the battery, which I think makes it actually lighter than the FX30.
This is cool.
That is weird. Yeah, there's nothing to grab onto. Like,
Yeah.
but it really makes it slim.
I think that's one of the interesting things I'm curious about is, like, this is not as easy to rig out. Like, an FX3 has like the mounting points and all that stuff. This is not as easy to rig out, but it is smaller, and then that LCD screen is so big that like you might not need to rig it out as
Yeah, I was
often.
about to say, like, would rigging out kind of ruin the purpose?
Yeah, it might be a little bit like, oh, you don't actually need to. I honestly think this is the first camera since the A7S III launch that I'm like, do I need to switch?
Whoa.
Even though it's like a huge pain in the butt and like new lenses and everything, but this thing is very interesting. Raw 6K, and this is almost half the price of an FX3.
But then you look on the side and you open up the port and you're like, micro HDMI.
Wait.
First impression is pretty good.
Whoa,
Whoa, whoa,
it's
whoa,
got
whoa, what?
micro HDMI.
There's always a catch, Spencer. There's always a catch. Yes, it only has a micro HDMI.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I can see. Look at that disappointment on the face.
That's not good. But then there's this interesting like would you rather situation. Would you rather have a small LCD screen that kind of sucks, like on the FX3, but then have full-size HDMI so you can plug in any monitor? Or would you rather have a really nice 4-inch LCD screen that's built into your camera, but then have micro HDMI? I think I might take the bigger LCD screen and micro HDMI because this means that you rarely actually have to plug in a monitor, because the difference between a 4-inch, 5-inch monitor isn't that much. And to just have this super small profile camera, it's hard to beat. Not to mention you're gonna save a lot of money when you don't have to buy an external monitor.
The buyout between Nikon and Red so far, you're like very impressed with. Just like
not very. I'm
Is
like,
this like a-
I'm way more impressed than I thought it was gonna be a big dud. To be honest, I was like, it's not gonna be that interesting. This is like really interesting to me.
Now, unfortunately, I did need to plug in an external monitor when I filmed that Anamorphic footage, which, by the way, looked insane, like so good. I found some Atlas Mercury 1.5 anamorphic lenses and filmed Isaac on a bike, and it was just like, the footage looks so good. But there is no anamorphic D-squeeze in camera, so I had to plug in an external monitor for basically no reason. It was like pretty much the same size, the monitor to the LCD screen. I would have loved to just skip the whole external monitor and have anamorphic D-squeeze in camera. I feel like that's something that Nikon can pretty quickly put into the camera, please, hopefully. But yeah, that is a little bit annoying. All right, here's the body. It's very reminiscent of like a ZV-E1, but a little bit bigger, it seems like. Interestingly, there's no menu button. You press this and then you get all these buttons, and then you have to press the menu to get to the menu. I'm not sure if the menus are better or worse right now. They're just confusing to me because I'm not used to them, but seems like there's a lot of good stuff in there. I just have to get used to this, but no menu button is kind of weird. On this side, there is nothing. There's no memory card slots or anything. Those are actually in the battery compartment here. We have a CF Express type B card slot and then a mini SD card slot right there. So that could be a downside for some people. For me, not that big of a deal. I'm never shooting onto 2 cards at once, but it would be nice to have 2 card slots at the same time, just in case one runs out and then you have the other one. On the other side, we have our microphone and headphone jack. And then on the bottom, we have a USB-C for charging. And then unfortunately, we have a micro HDMI. It also comes with a hot shoe, so this will be able to take microphones and get the audio straight into camera, just like on the FX3. And I believe Nikon will be making some sort of like XLR handle recording thing, hopefully. I've also heard that some other companies are gonna be making microphones that plug in straight through the hot shoe. I love that. The less cables in my life, the better.
This is also interesting. Me and Spencer are laughing at like, why do you need a zoom rocker these days? But when you hit this, it actually does like a punch in, and that is actually pretty handy if you just need to like pull focus quick and then just go like that. I actually like that. Smart move. There's no fan, so that's kind of interesting. At first I was like, oh no, having flashbacks of the R5 when it was overheating, it was like kind of unusable. I did not have any issues with overheating. I've heard tests that you can run it for like an hour and a half in 6K Red RAW and be in really hot weather, and then it might start overheating a little bit. But I personally did not run into any overheating issues, and I shot for many hours at a time. They do also have a photo mode switch here, but I don't think I'm gonna be doing any photos with it. Video is the main thing that I'm interested in. I just think most people are doing video nowadays, and this is clearly a video first camera, but you can take photos. I'm sure they're nice. Every camera nowadays takes nice photos, so I have no doubt that they're beautiful. Then let's talk 32-bit float. I'm recording in 32-bit float right now to like external recorder. This camera can do it internally. You can plug in any microphone and it'll now be 32-bit float. As long as the signal you're sending into the camera isn't blown out, like if you're using a wireless mic and you're peaking on the transceiver, if you're not messing that part up, then you have 32-bit float. You're never gonna mess up the levels on your audio again, which is like so incredible. Every single camera from now on should have this. And they also have a hot shoe mount, so this means you can pass the audio electronically to the camera. So they're gonna be building some sort of like XLR device like the Sony a7S III FX3 has. And I'm sure a lot of companies will be making microphones that go straight into this hot shoe, which yeah, I love it. I love not having extra cables. This is a really, really nice update. On top of the 32-bit float, we have 5-direction built-in microphones on the camera using Ozo audio technology, and so maybe the built-in audio is good. Have a listen for yourself.
All right, this is a good test. We're on a 50 mil. I'm like a couple feet away from Spencer and the camera. There's supposed to be pretty good microphones built into the camera. It's a little windy here, so this is like a real stress test. We didn't get the sunset. How about if I'm this close to the microphones? What does it sound like? Because if I didn't have to use a microphone, that would be great. But I'm always skeptical when they're like, hey, we got really good built-in internal microphones, and then they're not that great. All right, we're vlogging. One of the best things about vlogging with this camera is 32-bit float. You can have Tyler the Screamer over here. And then Isaac's always soft-spoken, and so... You can just deal with it afterwards in post. Never have to like, oh, are my levels good? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Spencer, based on your skating skills, we might need to have a talk on Monday about
No, I did.
You were supposed to have really good skating skills. I thought we were gonna get destroyed there. I did not expect the first Nikon Red collab to be potentially the best vlog camera ever made. Ooh. Is that like actually?
Yeah.
With very good cinematic capabilities also.
Best vlog camera and best stock camera. What other best?
Yeah, that is like, well, vlogging is like doc filmmaking really. And I think with this monitor, 32-bit float, and all the other bells and whistles, this becomes one of the best documentary cameras, which therefore, best vlogging camera. So
Big claim, big claim. I'm here for it.
I will say there are no mounting points on the body, so any like top handle situation is gonna be a little crazy through just the hot shoe. So you're probably gonna need some sort of cage if you want a solid top handle, which for some people might be a really big deal. For me, again, because that LCD screen is so big, I feel like I most of the time I'm not gonna need to rig this thing out too much, at least. Like maybe just like a focus motor for
PL glass or something like that, maybe. The battery life is great. I had no issues. I only had one battery. I was using it for like multiple hours, so I just brought a little power bank and then I would just plug that in. But it's supposed to run in 6K Red RAW, 60 frames per second for about an hour and a half, and in the other codecs, it should run even longer. So that's really great. No issue there yet. I'm like waiting for it. You're probably waiting for it too, where it's like, but there's a huge problem. And honestly, we spent a long time discussing with Spencer, with Tyler, other people, like, am I blind right now? What's like the big catch? Because it feels like there's always a big catch of like, these are really great, but, and so therefore I just keep using the FX3. But this time there isn't, well, there kind of is, but we'll get to that in a second. And I think most people are gonna be comparing this camera to the FX3. So here is some side-by-side footage. Even though the price is almost half of the FX3, I think these are competing cameras. And I'm actually gonna do a full video just comparing the two because I think everybody's gonna be doing this comparison. And the image definitely looks way better in my opinion on the ZR. And this is like this is a stupid comparison. The FX3 is like a 4 or 5-year-old camera. But this is what Sony has done to themselves. This is the best video camera from Sony in the prosumer lineup. And so this is the comparison we have to make. Just quickly looking at it, the ZR has better dynamic range, better maybe colors. I think it looks really good. And just more detail, obviously. It's a 24 megapixel sensor. So I feel like maybe that's the sweet spot. I don't know. I don't like a lot of the like 50 megapixel sensors. They just look digital nasty in a lot of ways. And then the 12 megapixel is really great on the FX3, but maybe 24 megapixels is like the happy medium. Speaking of sensors, rolling shutter, again, we're waiting for it, but the rolling shutter is real bad. I think it's actually really great. I don't have an exact number, but I think it's close to the Z6 Mark III, which had a rolling shutter speed of 9.5 milliseconds. And the FX3 has a rolling shutter of 8.5 milliseconds in 4K. So very close. And anecdotally, when I was using it, there was never a time where I'm like, whoa, rolling shutter, that's bad. I feel like especially when you're shooting in anamorphic, it becomes really apparent. No issues here. I think it's actually really, really good. You can import your own LUTs and view through those, and then you can actually also bake in the look of some different red LUTs, which is kind of cool. The IBIS is 7.5 stops, which there was no weird wobble or warping. Again, seems like everything is really good, just cutting out the nasty micro jitters. We're still waiting. What's the big catch? All right, let's just do it. Let's talk about all of the downsides. We literally spent hours trying to think of every single downside of this camera. First off, no anamorphic D-squeeze. I think that is a problem. I would love to have it. I don't want to have to put on a 5-inch LCD screen when you have a really nice 4-inch. I feel like that should just be like a software update, please, Nikon. Thank you. From what I saw, there isn't really good apps for monitoring. So I love to use, for example, right now, I'm using Monitor Plus to monitor what I'm filming. I love to use these apps nowadays. Sony cameras / the apps have done a good job of this. That's a downside for me. The micro HDMI, that's gonna be a downside for some people. But again, if that's the trade-off, I would rather have the 4-inch and never have to plug in, for the most part, an external monitor. Big file sizes for the Red RAW, and then when you downgrade to the H.265, it is a downgrade, so that is a negative, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy it's at least like that you have the option of like, I want even more quality. Great, shoot RAW. It actually, you can definitely tell the difference. Here's a little one, but the microphone jack hits the LCD screen when you tilt it. That's super annoying. The FX3 does the same thing. Check this out, if you have a mic plugged in, like, what? You have to like, oh, it's stuck there again. Like, great. I love this screen, but like, that is dumb. Now, luckily they made this a hot shoe, so you will have microphones that just pass through and you won't need this cable, but right now, I feel like an idiot when I'm like trying to flip it. Not good. Now this might be a non-issue once everything can just plug into the hot shoe, but right now it is really annoying that it just catches. Like sometimes I'm like, does nobody test this? Let's like right away I'm like, ah, that's annoying. No mounting points. The FX3 is really nice because it has a bunch of mounting points. Even the FX3, I wish it had more, but yeah, the ZR only has 1/4 20 on the bottom. that might be annoying for a lot of people. No open gate. I would love to have open gate, especially shooting in anamorphic. Again, maybe this is just a software update and they can give us open gate because they're not trying to protect their cinema lineup. Please, Nikon, open gate would be incredible. Not a deal breaker. The other cameras, for the most part, in this budget range also can't do open gates. So yeah, it's a little bit of it's a negative, but also not the end of the world for me. No dual card slots. That's a little bit annoying. Some people are gonna hate it. Some people are like, meh, I don't care. I also am not a fan of them being in the battery compartment, although it does keep the side free so you can put on cages and stuff. So maybe that's fine. The 120 frames per second is cropped. That's a bummer. It would be great if it wasn't, especially since we're so used to that on the FX3. But the big downside for me actually has nothing to do with the camera. The camera is like virtually perfect, other than if it maybe had some built-in ND filters. I'm gonna stop that right there because I actually solved my biggest problem. I will first tell you the problem and then I'll tell you how I solved it. The big downside for me is the lenses. I would hate right now to have to sell all my Sony lenses and buy Nikon lenses. Plus, I have two lenses that go with me every time, no matter where I go, no matter what the project is. I love these two lenses, and neither of them exist right now in Z-mount in the Nikon world. And that is a 16-35 f2.8 Nikon. Hello? That's like part of the Holy Trinity. You should have the 16-35 f2.8. Hello? Why not? And then a 24mm f1.4. Neither of those lenses exist right now for Nikon Z-mount, and that really bums me out because literally those are the two lenses that I take with me everywhere. Now, I will say there are some incredible lenses like the 35mm f1.2 that I used a lot in the example footage. Incredible. I love that. It is massive. It's really big. They have a 50mm f1.2 that is also massive, also incredible. The 24-70 is fine. If you go on B&H and you look up E-mount, so Sony E-mount lenses, there are 590 that come up. If you look up Nikon mount, Z-mount lenses, there are 337 Z-mount, Z-mount lenses, and then Canon, there's only 204. Ooh, that's not good for RF mount. But look at the difference. So this is, oh wait, this is a 35mm. This is a Sony 50mm f1.2. This is a Z-mount Nikon 50mm f1.2. Look at the size difference, massive size difference between these lenses. This, times a few lenses in your lens bag, it's a big difference. Even just weight-wise, this is so much heavier than the Sony lens. I will say though, whenever I see big glass, I think that the lens is just gonna be nicer. I don't know if that's true or not, but Nikon has massive glass, so I don't know, maybe this one's better. Maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's not. Maybe you can't tell any difference. I don't know. So the fix for this is that you can actually, I did not know this, you can actually adapt Sony E-mount lenses to Z-mount, Nikon Z-mount, with a really slim adapter like this. Like, this looks tiny. I don't actually have it. I didn't actually use it because I didn't know that this existed. But this means then that you can actually use your Sony lenses on the Z-mount ZR, which means I would not need to buy new lenses, potentially, as long as the autofocus and everything works, which I've been told that it's pretty good, that it should be totally fine. Then I wouldn't have to buy any new lenses, and that might mean that I have to potentially switch. I think that would be the biggest reason for most people to not switch to the ZR, is just they're so locked in with their Sony lenses or their Canon lenses, and they've invested a lot into those. And so even though the ZR is very affordable, it's not affordable to sell all your lenses and buy all new lenses. And I think that's gonna be the biggest problem for Nikon. Now that they actually have a really great camera, there will still be this like, I don't wanna do it. I don't wanna have to go through this. I'm just gonna keep shooting with the FX3. It's fine. I'm just gonna keep shooting my Canon. It's fine. But need I remind you, this is a $2,200 camera. That's insane. That's like the price of an FX30-ish. and you're getting some of the best, if not the best features in a prosumer non-cinema camera we have ever gotten. So who is this camera for? I think it's literally anybody who's ever been interested in the FX3 or FX30, except it's just way better than the FX30. This camera's for you. Whether you're a wedding shooter or a YouTube creator, or you're shooting docs or any of that stuff, even small to mid-range budget commercials or music videos, even narrative stuff. I bet you could do really well with the ZR. I honestly think this is the best documentary camera ever made. The combination of different really high quality codecs, 32-bit float, insane, that LCD screen, so you don't have to plug in an LCD screen if you have a really small camera setup, and then the autofocus makes this the best doc camera ever made. It really feels like Nikon just decided to go all out. We're not gonna protect anything because we have nothing to protect. Sorry, Nikon, but it's kind of true. They don't have cinema cameras to protect. They don't have other cameras that are known to be like the video camera. And so they just gone all out, made it almost like just obvious for a lot of people. If you don't have an FX30 or a Canon, whatever right now, it's kind of a no-brainer to just get the ZR, it feels like. If you already have Canon stuff or Sony stuff, there's this little threshold of like, oh, I gotta sell stuff, I gotta buy new lenses, and that is a little bit annoying. But I'm so glad that Nikon just went full on, full out, and just actually made a great camera. Just please make a 16-35, get that 24-1.4 out there, please. I love those lenses. And lastly, I have to say it. If a Nikon is a potato, then what are the other camera companies right now? All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys later. Bye. Well done, Nikon. Well done. Welcome to the video world. I appreciate it. And I hope this pushes you other guys. Sony, Canon, I see you guys. You guys better step it up. All right, bye.